Meet Sarah, who lost her college-bound son to what he thought was a regular painkiller. Her story is one of thousands. In 2022, over 81,000 Americans died from opioid overdoses, with fentanyl being the primary driver. That's roughly 220 people every day, comparable to a commercial airplane crashing with no survivors. Behind these staggering numbers are real people with futures cut short, often because they had no idea they were consuming fentanyl. How did we get here? In this video, I'll explain why this crisis differs from previous drug epidemics, how the $10 death trip phenomenon is changing addiction, and what we can do to protect ourselves and loved ones. From prescription pads to street corners, the evolution of America's deadliest drug crisis. Did you know that what's killing thousands of Americans today started in doctors' offices with good intentions? This isn't just another drug crisis. The story begins in the 1990s, when a well-meaning but ultimately catastrophic movement swept through American medicine. It was called pain as the fifth vital sign. Traditionally, doctors monitored 4 vital signs: temperature, pulse, respiration rate, and blood pressure. Then healthcare organizations began promoting the idea that pain should be measured with the same urgency. Physicians were expected to eliminate pain completely, and patient satisfaction scores became linked to how effectively pain was managed, creating tremendous pressure to prescribe medications. Enter Purdue Pharma with OxyContin. The company launched an aggressive marketing campaign, claiming their extended-release opioid was virtually non-addictive due to its slow-release formula. Sales representatives earned massive bonuses while the company funded medical education that downplayed addiction risks. Doctors, already under pressure to treat pain more aggressively, prescribed these pills for everything from cancer pain to routine dental procedures. Consider Sarah, a 45-year-old teacher who received OxyContin after minor back surgery. Her 2-week prescription turned into months of refills, as her doctor assured her the medication was safe for long-term use. Within a year, she found herself dependent, her life unraveling from a treatment that was supposed to help her. What we now know is that Purdue Pharma was aware of OxyContin's addictive potential. Internal documents later revealed the company recognized early reports of addiction but concealed this information. This deception led to criminal charges and billions in settlements, but not before millions became dependent on prescription opioids. By the mid-2000s, addiction rates soared across all demographics, from rural Appalachia to suburban neighborhoods nationwide. This first wave of the epidemic was characterized by prescription drug overdoses, affecting people who simply trusted their doctors. Then, around 2010, as authorities cracked down with prescription monitoring programs and reformulated drugs, the second wave emerged. People already dependent on opioids turned to heroin, cheaper and more accessible. The crisis expanded to new territories, particularly in the Northeast and Midwest, as ordinary citizens sought to avoid withdrawal symptoms. The true nightmare began around 2013, with the third wave, the arrival of synthetic opioids, particularly fentanyl. Unlike previous phases, fentanyl represented a contamination crisis where even experienced users couldn't identify what they were taking. Death rates skyrocketed, with synthetic opioid fatalities increasing 30-fold between 2013 and 2021. Our understanding of addiction has evolved. What was once viewed as a moral failing is now recognized as a complex medical condition with genetic, psychological, and social dimensions, touching every community in America. The $10 death trip. Why fentanyl's economics make it unstoppable. The science of addiction may be complex, but the business model behind fentanyl is devastatingly straightforward. What many people don't realize is that a substance so potent that a few salt-sized grains can kill an adult costs dealers mere pennies to produce. This economic reality has created what experts now call the $10 death trip, the most accessible deadly drug America has ever faced. Fentanyl is approximately 50 times more potent than heroin. Picture a pinprick of death, a lethal dose measuring around 2 milligrams, equivalent to 15 grains of table salt. This microscopic assassin transforms the entire business model of the drug trade. A single kilogram can be divided into millions of doses, turning dust into dollars, pennies into fortunes. Consider a street dealer who invests $200 in fentanyl powder. This tiny amount, smaller than a sugar packet, yields 100 doses sold at $10 each. That's $1,000 profit from an investment smaller than a credit card. The The math is brutally simple, the consequences profound. The DEA describes fentanyl as the single deadliest drug threat our nation has ever encountered. Unlike heroin or cocaine requiring extensive agricultural operations, fentanyl is entirely synthetic. No poppy fields, no weather conditions, just chemistry, manufactured in labs with readily available precursor chemicals. The supply chain runs primarily from Chinese chemical manufacturers to Mexican cartels who process it into final form. Each step multiplies profits exponentially. A dose costing pennies to produce sells for $10.20 on the street, dramatically cheaper than equivalent doses of other opioids. Fentanyl's physical properties make it virtually unstoppable. Its high potency means small volumes contain enormous numbers of doses. Enough fentanyl to supply the entire United States for a year could theoretically fit in a few car trunks. How do you effectively police something so concentrated? This tiny size makes smuggling almost effortless. While enforcement might intercept tons of marijuana or cocaine, fentanyl can be concealed in ordinary mail packages or carried by individuals in amounts barely visible yet worth fortunes. Behind each transaction are lives balanced on razor's edge, families devastated by losses from an invisible killer. The brutal economics work against safety. When each tiny transaction generates substantial profit and the supply is virtually unlimited, individual consumer survival becomes irrelevant to the business model. Each death represents a person, someone's child, parent, friend, yet barely dents potential profits. Fentanyl has rewritten the rules of the drug market by shattering traditional patterns. Before, drug potency and price generally tracked together. Fentanyl offers unprecedented potency at rock-bottom prices. This economic inversion explains why interdiction efforts have proven largely ineffective. Traditional approaches focused on seizing large shipments can't address a substance where meaningful quantities arrive hidden in regular commercial shipping. Russian roulette, in pill form. The contamination crisis. Claiming unsuspecting victims. Beyond the profit-driven economics of fentanyl trafficking lies an even more sinister reality. A shadow epidemic of counterfeit medications claiming victims who never intended to use opioids at all. What begins as a decision to take what appears to be a legitimate prescription pill can instantly become a death sentence, with no warning and no second chances. Sarah, a college sophomore, borrowed what she thought was Adderall from her roommate to help during finals week. Hours later, her friend found her unresponsive in their dorm room. The pill she took contained a lethal dose of fentanyl. Like thousands of others, Sarah became a victim of America's counterfeit pill crisis, a rigged lottery where each pill is a spin with deadly odds. Today's counterfeit pills are nearly indistinguishable from legitimate medications. They match the color, markings, and shape of prescription drugs so perfectly that even healthcare professionals can't tell the difference by visual inspection alone. This perfect deception is what makes them fatally dangerous. A pill obtained online or from anyone other than a licensed pharmacy might contain enough fentanyl to kill instantly. It only takes one pill to kill, warns U.S. Attorney Michael Easley. His words echo through emergency rooms nationwide, where doctors regularly treat victims who had no idea they were consuming fentanyl. The Heroin Education Action Team reports that countless overdose victims weren't seeking opioids. They were simply unlucky enough to encounter a counterfeit pill in what became their final act. Drug dealers deliberately mix fentanyl into their products to enhance the high customer's experience and to foster addiction. When users experience a powerful effect, they return to the same dealer, unaware they're developing dependency on fentanyl rather than the substance they believe they're buying. This business model transforms occasional users into reliable customers, with deadly consequences that dealers view as an acceptable cost of doing business. The economics make terrible sense. Microscopic amounts of fentanyl cost almost nothing while dramatically increasing a product's perceived value and addictive potential. What makes this particularly deadly is the random distribution within counterfeit products. Two pills from the same batch can contain wildly different amounts. One might contain barely any fentanyl, while another contains a lethal dose. This contamination extends beyond fake prescription pills to cocaine, methamphetamine, and even marijuana in some regions. No recreational substance purchased outside regulated channels can be considered safe. The tragic reality is that experimentation with a seemingly safe substance could instantly become someone's last moment alive. The randomness makes this threat particularly difficult to address through traditional public health approaches. Users can't identify the danger visually. They can't start with a small amount when a lethal dose is microscopic. The harm reduction strategies that recreational drug users traditionally relied on simply don't work against the invisible threat of fentanyl contamination. As we've seen throughout this journey, the fentanyl crisis represents a fundamental transformation in America's relationship with substance abuse. The situation demands a comprehensive approach from all levels of society, focusing on harm reduction, expanded treatment access, and disrupting illicit supply chains. Awareness remains our most powerful weapon. Learning to recognize overdose signs, carrying naloxone, and understanding the dangers of non-prescribed substances directly saves lives. The HEAT team emphasizes that the first encounter with today's contaminated drugs could be the last. This is about protecting our communities from an invisible threat that doesn't discriminate based on background, intentions, or experience level.